The sun cast long shadows across the ash wastes as Brother Biemot guided his bike through the narrow canyon pass. The black ceramite of his power armor absorbed the dying light, rendering him nearly invisible against the volcanic rock formations that dominated this desolate world. His bike's engine purred with barely restrained power, the machine's spirit eager for the hunt that lay ahead. For 3 months, Biemot had followed whispers and rumors across the sector, each lead bringing him closer to his quarry, the Fallen, those ancient traitors whose very existence was the Dark Angel's greatest shame and most closely guarded secret. The data slate secured to his bike's instrument panel flickered with amber runes, displaying the intelligence that had brought him to this Emperor-forsaken world. A rogue Astartes had been sighted leading raids against Imperial supply convoys in the outer system. The descriptions matched known patterns of fallen behavior, though the details remained frustratingly vague. Still, any lead must be pursued. Such was the burden of the unforgiven. Biemot's helmet display highlighted thermal signatures ahead. 3 kilometers, nestled within a maze of obsidian spires, lay the coordinates provided by his informant. The settlement, if it could be called that, was little more than a collection of prefabricated structures and mining equipment abandoned by prospectors decades ago. Now it served as a haven for pirates, smugglers, and worse, the perfect refuge for a traitor seeking to avoid the Emperor's justice. The Ravenwing biker brought his mount to a halt behind a towering formation of volcanic glass, its surface reflecting distorted images of the darkening sky. He deployed his bike's Auspex array, the sensitive equipment probing the settlement for signs of his target. The readings were inconclusive, disrupted by high metallic content in the surrounding rock and residual radiation from ancient mining operations. Biemot would need to investigate personally. He dismounted, securing his bike with whispered litanies to appease its machine spirit. The plasma talons mounted on the vehicle's front fairing gleamed dully in the fading light, weapons that had claimed the lives of countless enemies of the Imperium. But this hunt required subtlety, at least initially. Biemot checked his equipment methodically. His bolt pistol, blessed by the chapter's tech marines, hung at his right hip. The power sword maglock to his back, grenades, both frag and crack variants, were secured across his chest plate. Most importantly, the specialized equipment of the Ravenwing filled various pouches and compartments. Stasis cuffs for capturing a fallen alive, if possible. Interrogation devices that could extract preliminary information before delivering the traitor to the Rock's dungeons. Signal beacons to summon reinforcements should the situation deteriorate. Moving with surprising stealth for one clad in power armor, Biemot advanced through the shadows cast by the obsidian spires. His auto-senses compensated for the gathering darkness, overlaying his vision with targeting data and threat assessments. The settlement grew larger as he approached, revealing more details. Blast scarring on several buildings suggested recent combat. Bodies, some days old, lay scattered between structures. The work was professional, efficient. Definitely Astartes pattern, though whether loyalist or traitor remained to be determined. The first living soul Biemot encountered was a sentry, human, poorly equipped, and even more poorly trained. The man leaned against a rusted storage container, his lasgun propped carelessly beside him as he drew on a low stick. Biemot could have killed him without breaking stride, but corpses raised alarms. Instead, he moved like a shadow, closing the distance in heartbeats. One armored hand clamped over the sentry's mouth, stifling any cry. The other applied precise pressure to the carotid artery. Biemot dragged him into deeper shadows before continuing. The settlement's central structure, a repurposed ore processing facility, showed signs of recent fortification. Ceramite plates, obviously scavenged from destroyed vehicles, had been welded over windows and doorways. Heavy stubber emplacements covered the main approaches. Someone was expecting trouble, or preparing to give it. Biemot circled the building, cataloging defenses and searching for weaknesses. His helm's multi-spectrum sensors penetrated the darkness, revealing tripwires, proximity mines, and other lethal surprises. Whoever commanded this place understood defense in depth. More evidence of Astartes' involvement. But which kind? A weakness presented itself on the building's eastern face. An exhaust vent, large enough to accommodate a space marine, had been overlooked in the fortification efforts. Or perhaps it was a deliberate trap. Biemot considered his options. Direct assault would alert the entire settlement. But if his quarry was indeed one of the fallen, capture took precedence over all other concerns. The secrets locked within a traitor's mind could lead to more of their kind, perhaps even reveal the locations of those who had scattered across the galaxy 10,000 years ago. Decision made, Biemot approached the vent. His armor's systems detected no obvious traps. He removed the grating carefully, ancient metal protesting with groans that seemed deafening in the stillness. Beyond, a maintenance shaft led into the building's depths. Biemot emerged silently, bolt pistol drawn and ready. His armor's tactical display populated with new data as its sensors swept the area. Multiple heat signatures on the levels above. Weapons discharge residue in the air, no more than 6 hours old. The metallic tang of blood, both human and transhuman, reached him through his helmet's filters. Moving through the machinery chamber, Biemot found evidence of the building's current inhabitants. Weapon racks lined one wall, stocked with a mixture of Imperial and Xenos armaments. Supply crates bore markings from dozens of different sources, clearly pirated goods. Voices from above interrupted his investigation. Biemot moved to the chamber's exit, pressing against the wall as footsteps descended metal stairs. Two figures entered his field of view. Humans, but bearing the marks of chaos corruption. They spoke in low Gothic, discussing patrol schedules and complaining about their master's paranoia. Biemot let them pass. Cultists were beneath his concern unless they impeded his mission. His quarry lay elsewhere, likely in the upper levels where the heat signatures clustered. He ascended the stairs they had descended, each step calculated to minimize noise despite his armor's weight. The stairwell opened onto a corridor lined with doorways. Most led to empty chambers or storage areas of no interest. But at the corridor's end, double doors marked with fresh welding suggested something more significant beyond. Approaching the doors, Biemot's auto senses detected active Vox traffic beyond. Multiple voices, including at least one speaking in the battle cant of the Adeptus Astartes. His heart quickened. This was it. His hand moved to the specialized equipment at his belt, preparing the stasis cuffs and neuroshackles. The doors were not locked, merely closed. Overconfidence or trap, it mattered not. Duty demanded he continue. Biemot burst through the doors in a shower of metal fragments, bolt pistol tracking for targets, a command center, makeshift but functional, tactical displays showing system maps and convoy routes. A massive figure in corrupted power armor standing over a hololith table. The armor was a sickly green, marked with the three-circle symbol of Nurgle, a plague marine. The traitor Astartes reacted with superhuman speed, bringing up a bolter that wept pustulant fluids. But Biemot was already moving, his Ravenwing training taking over. He dove left as mass-reactive rounds detonated where he had stood. His own bolt pistol barked in response, shots sparking off the plague marine. Around the room, cultists scrambled for weapons, their master's roar of anger spurring them to action. This was not one of the fallen. Disappointment warred with relief in Biemot's mind, but a Chaos Space Marine was still a priority target, one that could not be allowed to escape. The plague marine, who wore no helmet, revealed a face ravaged by Nurgle's gifts. One eye had been replaced by a cluster of compound eyes. His mouth, when it opened to speak, revealed rows of leechy teeth. Plague flies buzzed around his head in a living halo. He started to speak, but his words were irrelevant, boasts and threats in the name of his putrid god. Biemot had no interest in the rhetoric of traitors. He fired again, his shots disciplined and precise. One caught a cultist rushing forward with a chain weapon. Another forced the plague marine to shift position, moving away from the tactical displays. But the traitor's bolter found its mark. Rounds hammered into Biemot's shoulder pauldron, ceramite cracking under the impact. Warning runes flashed across his display as armor integrity dropped. The plague marine pressed his advantage, advancing while maintaining suppressing fire. His corrupted armor leaked fluids that hissed and smoked where they struck the floor. Behind him, more cultists poured through side entrances, armed with everything from autoguns to mining tools repurposed as weapons. Biemot's bolt pistol clicked empty. No time to reload with the plague marine bearing down on him. He drew his power sword in one fluid motion, the blade igniting with crackling energy fields. The first cultist to reach him learned the folly of engaging an Astartes in close combat. The power sword bisected him from shoulder to hip, cauterized meat falling in two directions. Biemot kept moving, using the corpse as a momentary shield while he oriented on the true threat. The plague marine had discarded his bolter, drawing a plague knife that dripped with diseases. The blade was the length of a normal human's forearm, its corroded surface writhing with bacterial life. The two Astartes circled each other, weapons ready, each taking the other's measure. The traitor struck first, his blade leaving trails of corruption in the air. Biemot parried, power field meeting plague weapon in a shower of diseased sparks. The impact jarred his arm despite his enhanced strength. This was no recently turned renegade, but a veteran of the long war, 10,000 years of experience distilled into every movement. Biemot gave ground, his swordwork defensive as he analyzed his opponent's style. Around them, the command center became a bloodbath. Cultists tried to flank Biemot. His sword carved through them almost absently, his primary focus never leaving the plague marine. Bodies piled around the two combatants, forming a grotesque arena for their duel. The plague marine's style was deceptively slow, each strike measured and inevitable like the progress of entropy itself. But Biemot recognized the trap. Let the pace lull you, and the killing blow would come faster than thought. He had seen similar techniques among the Deathwing, the Dark Angel's own Terminator elite. Patience wielded as a weapon. Biemot shifted tactics, his sword work becoming more aggressive. The Ravenwing were hunters, not duelists. Speed and overwhelming force were their tools. His power sword became a blur of motion, striking from multiple angles in rapid succession. The plague marine's parries grew more desperate, his corrupted physiology struggling to match the loyalist's pace. A faint high followed by a low sweep forced the traitor to stumble. Biemot pressed the advantage, his sword carving a deep furrow across the plague marine's breastplate. Corrupted ceramite parted like flesh, revealing the festering organs beneath. The traitor roared in pain and anger, lashing out with his plague knife in a wild arc. Biemot leaned back, the blade missing his throat by centimeters. Drops of its vile secretions spattered his chest plate, immediately beginning to eat through the ceramite. More cultists flooded the room, these better armed and organized than the first wave. Las fire and solid slugs filled the air, forcing Biemot to divide his attention. His armor absorbed most impacts, but already damaged sections began to fail. A Lars bolt found a gap in his side, flash-boiling tissue. Pain suppressors dumped chemicals into his bloodstream, maintaining combat efficiency despite the wound. The plague marine rallied, using his followers' distraction to launch a renewed assault. His plague knife wove patterns of decay, each strike aimed at vital armor joints. Biemot found himself pressed, unable to fully engage the traitor while dealing with the cultist threat. A frag grenade cleared some space, body parts raining down like grisly confetti, but more cultists took their place. Tactical analysis flashed through Biemot's mind. The situation was deteriorating. Soon, the settlement's entire population would converge on this location. While he was confident in his ability to defeat any number of cultists, the traitor had allies, other Chaos Space Marines who had not yet revealed themselves. The situation could become untenable. Decision made, Biemot triggered his armor's stim dispensers. Combat drugs flooded his system, already superhuman reflexes ascending to new heights. Time seemed to slow, his perception expanding to encompass every detail of the battle. He could see individual Lars bolts in flight, track the trajectory of every solid round. More importantly, he could see the micro-expressions on the plague marine's ravaged face, tiny tells that telegraphed his next moves. Biemot exploded into motion. His power sword carved through 3 cultists in a single sweep, their bodies not even beginning to fall before he had moved on. His bolt pistol, reloaded in a fraction of a second, barked steadily. Each shot claimed a life, mass-reactive rounds, turning human bodies into expanding clouds of gore. The Plague Marine tried to press his attack, but found his opponent had transcended normal Astartes' capabilities. Biemot's sword met every strike before it fully developed, power fields and plague weapon shrieking their mutual hatred. The Loyalist's blade carved 3 more wounds in his opponent's armor, each deeper than the last. But the combat stims came with a cost. Biemot could feel his body burning through resources at an unsustainable rate. His secondary heart hammered to keep pace with increased metabolic demands. Neural pathways blazed with synaptic overload. He had minutes at most before the crash, and he needed to end this before then. A pattern emerged in the Plague Marine's defense, a slight favoritism for his left side. Legacy of an old wound, perhaps, or simple habit, developed over millennia. Biemot feinted right, drawing the expected parry, then reversed his blade in a move that would have torn every muscle in an unaugmented human's arm. His power sword punched through the Plague Marine's left pauldron, deep into the diseased flesh beneath. The traitor's scream shook dust from the ceiling. His plague knife fell from nerveless fingers. Biemot twisted his blade, widening the wound, then ripped it free in a spray of black ichor. The Plague Marine staggered, his left arm hanging useless. But still, he did not fall. The blessings of Nurgle included unnatural resilience, the ability to fight on despite wounds that would cripple even an Astartes. Drawing a bolt pistol with his remaining hand, the Plague Marine fired point blank. Rounds hammered into Biemot's chest plate, already weakened ceramite finally giving way. Warning runes cascaded across his display. Primary heart damaged, lung punctured, major arterial bleeding detected, but Biemot was Ravenwing. Pain was irrelevant. Injury was irrelevant. Only duty mattered. His power sword swept up, separating the Plague Marine's bolt pistol and the hand holding it. Before the traitor could react, Biemot's blade reversed. Power fields carved through diseased flesh and corrupted bone, emerging from the top of the traitor's skull in a fountain of infected brain matter. The Plague Marine toppled backward, truly dead at last. Around the room, surviving cultists fled in terror, their dark master's death breaking whatever hold he had over them. Biemot let them go. They were beneath his concern, and his own injuries demanded attention. He staggered to the command center's hololith table, using it for support as his body's enhanced healing factors struggled to compensate for the damage. Bright arterial blood pooled at his feet. His primary heart stuttered, trying to maintain circulation despite the hole punched through its lower chamber. The secondary heart took up the load, but it too had suffered damage. Biemot activated his armor's emergency medical protocols. Foam sealant filled the chest cavity, hardening to prevent further blood loss. Synthetic platelets flooded the worst wounds, forming artificial scabs. Pain suppressors dumped their remaining stores into his bloodstream. It would be enough. It had to be. Biemot had a bike to return to, a hunt to continue. The Plague Marine merely another traitor rather than one of the fallen. But there would be other leads, other whispers in the dark. Moving carefully, Biemot searched the command center. The Plague Marine's personal effects yielded little of interest. Blasphemous texts, trophies taken from murdered loyalists. A collection of diseases stored in specialized containers, each capable of depopulating worlds. The tactical data proved more interesting. The Plague Marine had been planning a major operation, using the pirated supplies to equip a warband for attacks deeper into Imperial space. Ship movements, hidden supply caches, contacts among corrupt Imperial officials, all meticulously documented. Not Biemot's primary concern, but valuable intelligence nonetheless. He downloaded everything to his armor's data stores. The Ravenwing would ensure it reached those who could act upon it. His injuries made stealth impossible during the exit. Biemot simply walked through the settlement's main thoroughfare, bolt pistol dealing with any cultist foolish enough to challenge him. Most fled at his approach, terror of the Emperor's angels overcoming them. The settlement would not survive. Already, Biemot had activated a beacon that would bring Imperial forces to cleanse this place. But that was future concern. His present demanded he reach his bike, reach medical attention before his wounds claimed him. The bike waited where he had left it, machine spirit eagerly waiting at his approach. Biemot collapsed into the saddle, hands moving automatically through startup procedures despite the grey creeping in at the edges of his vision. Miles passed in a blur of pain and determination. Then everything turned black. He awoke briefly when the Thunderhawk's retrieval claws locked onto his bike, lifting both machine and rider into the gunship's hold. Apothecaries swarmed over him. Later, Biemot awoke in the Medicae bay of the strike cruiser Unrelenting Fury. His chest was a mass of surgical scars, evidence of the extensive repairs required to restore function. A servoskull hovered nearby, monitoring his vital signs. Through the bay's viewports, he could see the void of space, stars wheeling slowly as the ship maneuvered. Brother Apothecary Mordecai appeared at his bedside, ancient face carved with lines of concern and approval in equal measure. The apothecary's white armor bore the tokens of centuries of service. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of that experience. Recovery would be swift, Mordecai assured him. The damage, while severe, was within the chapter's ability to repair. Within weeks, he would be combat-ready once more. The hunt could continue. The intelligence Biemot had recovered proved valuable. Already, strike forces were being dispatched to eliminate the hidden supply caches and corrupt officials the Plague Marine had cultivated. A nascent chaos insurgency had been stillborn countless Imperial lives, saved by Biemot's actions. Commendations were entered into the chapter records. Honor markings would be added to his armor once repairs were complete. But for Biemot, lying in the Medicae bay as his body slowly healed, such honors were secondary. His mind was already moving ahead, analyzing the next lead, the next whisper of the Fallen's presence. A void station in the Kalos sector where a mysterious Astartes had been seen. Rumors of pre-heresy equipment. Each lead would be investigated, pursued with the relentless determination that characterized the Dark Angels. The Plague Marine had been a worthy foe, a veteran of 10,000 years of warfare against the Imperium. But he had fallen before Biemot's blade, as all enemies of the Emperor must fall. Yet the true enemy, the Fallen, remained at large, scattered across the galaxy like poisonous seeds, each one a living reminder of the Dark Angel's greatest shame. Biemot closed his eyes, letting the Medicae systems lull him back into a healing sleep. And as Brother Biemot slept, he dreamt of redemption written in the blood of traitors. His body would heal, his armor would be repaired, his bike would be blessed and maintained, and then, once more, he would ride into the darkness,